European Union leaders say that the bloc has taken a leap forward in ties with Armenia after the country's first bilateral summit with the EU. It marks another step in Armenia's pivot away from Russia toward Europe. Both sides signed a connectivity partnership to strengthen transport, energy, and digital links. The EU also encouraged investment, noting opportunities tied to Armenia's ongoing peace process with Azerbaijan.
For Armenia, these are historic days. More than 36 European heads of state and government have come to Yerevan, together with EU leaders. Armenia and the European Union are moving closer. A political signal to Europe, to Russia, and to Armenia too.
Today's summit marks an important milestone in the deepening of the partnership between the European Union and Armenia.
Just a year ago, we agreed that Armenia and the EU would move forward shoulder to shoulder. Looking back today, the progress we have made is almost unbelievable.
Armenia is located at a geopolitical crossroads between Europe, Russia, the Middle East and Central Asia. It is landlocked, surrounded by powerful neighbors. For centuries, this has made the country vulnerable to foreign rule, conflict and geopolitical pressure. Even today, Armenia remains strongly shaped by the Soviet past. Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan is now trying to normalize relations with neighboring countries, while gradually tying Armenia more closely to Europe. I think this is a big step for Armenia towards positivity, towards the European ideology, which I think the people of Armenia are closer to that policy and need it. We need support from everyone, from the European side, the Russian side, from all the great powers. Specifically for me, for the entire Armenian people, it seems to me a good thing. Good new opportunities, I think.
We never want to be enemies of the Russian people. We want to have a good relationship with the Russian people too, for good things to happen. We've lived together for 100 years, side by side. I would like us to live well with all the nations of the world.
For the Armenian government, this is a balancing act. A clear orientation toward the West, without alienating Russia. Agreements with the EU have been signed in different areas, including transport, energy and digitalization.
My understanding is that the European Union needs stability across its borders. And South Caucasus is one of the areas when we have several wars in the last few years. So I think the number one benefit for the European Union to have more stable South Caucasus, in line with the European Union ideal.
The summits also come at a crucial time domestically. On June 7th, Armenians will elect a new parliament. The meetings with EU leaders are giving Prime Minister Pashinyan political momentum.
Armenia has emerged as the EU's major partner in the South Caucasus. But apart from this geopolitical dimension, there is also, I think, a domestic dimension as well. I think that the European Union is kind of trying to send the signal to the Armenian public that, you know, this government is the one we want to work with. It would be good if this government gets re-elected.
Meanwhile, pressure from Russia is growing. Cyber attacks and disinformation campaigns are on the rise. The EU is sending security experts to help Armenia counter these threats.
Armenia has also to counter foreign information manipulation, hybrid threats, interference. Our new EU partnership mission will support you in countering these hybrid threats and disinformation, because one thing is absolutely clear. The only legitimate source of power in this country is the Armenian people's will.
While Armenia is yet to apply for EU membership, the government has shown that it wants to start the process, which would take decades. It adopted a law on launching the process in 2025.
I think this is a very good and additional incentive for us to breathe new life into democratic and, more generally, institutional reforms to reach as quickly as possible the status of a country that meets the European Union's standards.
Armenia is charting its own new course by deepening its ties with the European Union.
And a little earlier, I spoke with Joshua Kucera, a senior analyst for the South Caucasus at the International Crisis Group. While the EU is calling its meeting in Armenia a leap forward, I asked him for his take on the event.
Well, so the specific takeaways, maybe they weren't very many. They signed a transportation or an agreement on connectivity, EU-Armenia connectivity agreement that sets out a sort of framework for the EU to carry out transportation, data, energy projects, and so on in Armenia. But I think beyond that, this was a sort of a symbolic visit for both sides. For the EU, it was a chance to come into a country that had been seen mostly as a Russian satellite, as Russia's backyard, and make a kind of big diplomatic show of force here. And for Armenia, specifically the Armenian government, this was a chance for them to host a really high-profile event. There's not really been anything like this in Yerevan before, and coming at a really critical time, which is a month before parliamentary elections.
And there are some other things that we've never seen before. I'd just like to play a quick clip and get your reaction here, because there was a state banquet last night where Macron performed La Bohème. Armenia's president also joined in, playing a few notes, one-handed, alongside a pianist on the grand piano. Let's have a listen, and then I'll get your reaction. So those are the leaders of France and Armenia performing La Bohème, this famous song by Charles Aznavour, who was born in Paris back in 1924 to Armenian immigrant parents and maintained close ties to Armenia. You know, this is a shared cultural icon. How close is Armenia to Europe now culturally?
I mean, I think that's a tricky question. I think there's a lot of symbolism in the France-Armenia relationship, and I think Aznavour kind of exemplifies that. You know, there's a lot of Armenian diaspora representatives in France, and I think that's the basis for this this kind of relationship that's important symbolically on both sides. And today they strengthened the practical form of that relationship a little bit. There were some again specific that France and Armenia signed a strategic partnership agreement to kind of put some meat on the bones of that symbolic relationship.
Talk with us a little bit more about this shift now, because we're seeing Armenia shifting away from, you know, its long-standing relationship with Russia.
Right. So we saw, you know, in the last few years, as your viewers probably are aware, there was a series of wars between Armenia and Azerbaijan. And Russia has been traditionally Armenia's security guarantor. And the two sides have a treaty where they're supposed to come to each other's defense in the case of an attack. Armenians did not feel like Russia carried out their obligations to the extent that they were expecting. And that was especially the case after 2022, when Russia was distracted by its war in Ukraine. And so Armenians, both the Armenian government and the Armenian people, you can see this reflected in opinion polls, became really disillusioned with Russia. And so that's when you started to see Armenia start to look elsewhere for foreign policy diversification. This includes the EU and the US, but also partners like Iran, Armenia's neighbor to the south. They've been building ties as well. And India, Armenia's been buying a lot of weapons lately from India. And at the same time, I think Armenia still doesn't want to break its relations with Russia. It sees Russia as one part of a balanced foreign policy with all of these other powers.
And beyond Armenia, I mean, if you look more broadly at Europe's geopolitical influence in the Caucasus region, is it expanding?
I think that's hard to say. I think, Europe has seen this post-2022 kind of retreat by Russia from the region and is trying to make inroads. And I think that's one, what you saw over the last 2 days was one of the big examples of that. I think whether it bears practical fruit is so far, I think, too early to say.
Joshua Kucera, senior analyst for the South Caucasus. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thanks for having me.